Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Father Talks podcast. I am your host, Mike D. I am here with my special guest, Mr. Jason Lange. Jason, welcome to the show.
Yeah, so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding. I'm glad to have you here. It took us a little while to get together, but, I'll give you the floor here in 2 seconds. I want to give you a good introduction. So, ladies and gentlemen, Jason is a men's embodiment coach. Uh, He's a men's embodiment coach, group facilitator, and evolutionary guide. He helps men drop in and wake up to deeper clarity in their lives, purpose, and relationships. He believes every man should be in a men's group for the growth and support opportunities they provide. Actually, Jason, that is awesome because I actually spoke to another guest who had a similar, point of view where he was like, you know what, men, we don't have any groups that we're a part of anymore, and we, because of that, I think we lack community where there's people we can lean on, so with that being said, tell us some more about what you're doing.
Yeah, man. My journey. I'm a father of two.
Okay.
I've been in the men's work world for 20 years. I've been in men's groups myself since my mid 20s, so I feel very lucky
Okay.
in that sense. In that, in a lot of ways, the most abundant resource I have in my life is high quality connections with amazing men.
Okay.
And in my journey, what I've really discovered is this is an incredible need for men in particular. And that I think is kind of really hitting a boiling point in our culture right now. That
Right.
so many of us guys are taught from a young age that we're supposed to figure it out all on our own, right? Be tough. Don't ask questions. Don't show weakness. Figure it out. And that catches up to us. And I particularly see it catch up to a lot of fathers,
Right.
right? In terms of this real pain pattern with a lot of men I work with, which is okay, cool. I go to school, I get the degree, or I learn a trade. I bust my butt off trying to make some money. I get a spouse, I start a family. I'm taught from, day one, my value as a man is how much can I provide? And so I throw myself into my work
Right.
oftentimes. And then the very thing that starts to um, get neglected is myself,
Right.
and particularly my connection with other men. And so over time, I get more stressed out. I'm holding more burden. Maybe I'm not connecting to my partner the way I want. And this is a real threshold moment that, a lot of men hit in their lives, middle age, 40s, 50s,
Yeah.
60s, kids leave the nest. And then spouse and husband are left thinking, wait a second, who are we? What are we? We haven't had a relationship in 20, 25 years.
Right.
And this is often where a lot of guys come to me. Their partner's like, I'm out. Without the kids, without that glue, we don't have a relationship. We haven't cultivated any intimacy, and I need something else. And so I work with a lot of men who are kind of left in pain, thinking, hey, man, I did what I thought I was supposed to do. I worked, I provided. But then everything kind of falls apart. They lose their relationship, and then they find themselves alone.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't got any friends because I didn't have any time for friends. I poured everything I had into my family. And this just shows up in so many profound ways that, it's like 1990, they interviewed men, and it was like maybe 3% of men
Mhm.
reported not having a close friend. And this was even before COVID. They did this follow up. So this was like mid 2010s, I think, that had jumped to 15% of men.
Wow.
And I would argue now, probably post COVID, virtual work from home, all the changes we're going through as a culture, I would imagine that number is quite a bit higher,
Right.
and that men are lonely. And when men are lonely, they turn to substances, addictions, work, different things to try to make themselves feel better that, can be a temporary fix, but doesn't really hit the deeper things. So a big part of my mission is let's get men connected. When men are connected, they're happier, they're healthier,
Right.
their families do better, their relationships do better. Things just get better.
And that's funny because my dad always told me when I was a kid, I thought I was so cool. I had all these friends and all that. And he always told me, he was like, "You don't have any friends. You have a bunch of associates." I'm like, "What? No, these are all my friends." And he said, "No, when you become become an older man, you will find that you have one, maybe two real friends in your entire life. If you have two, he said, one of those friends will be your partner. And the other will be somebody that you went to high school with, somebody that you met along the way. But outside of that, half of these people that you talk to now, you won't even you won't have really any communication with them later." And I am 52 years old, and he was right. He was right, which is insane to believe. But I do realize that a lot of men are, you know, just biding their time. It's work, home, work, home, work, home, and that's
Yeah.
it. So um how is it that, men are surrounded by all these people, but still yet they're completely alone?
Yeah, this is a real thing I see too where, sometimes guys I work with, they literally just don't have any connection
Right.
in their life. But some men do, right? It's like, oh yeah, I went out with my buddies, we went fishing, or we went to the sports bar. But then they come home, right? I had a client recently who did a ski weekend with
Okay.
a bunch of guys he grew up with, right? But he came home from that weekend and he was feeling incredibly lonely because he's in the midst of a massive transition potentially with his relationship,
Okay.
but they just don't talk about that.
Right.
We don't talk about that stuff. They're like, "Oh, you're having a hard time, right?" And then that was it. The guys don't know how to go deeper. So this points to some of the ways we're raised and the culture we're raised in, particularly as boys and men, where we're not taught how to connect. Most men, by default, learn to connect through triangulation, right? Which is me and you have our attention on some third thing,
Right.
an activity, a sports game,
Got
right? We're side by side. That's the thing. And then we feel a little connection from that. And, that's great. There's a time and place for that. But what that misses is me and you facing each other, looking each other eye to eye
mm,
and going under the surface. Hey, what's going great in your life right now?
right.
What's not going great? Where are you in pain? Where do you feel overwhelmed? Where do you feel stressed? A lot of guys don't know how to talk about that.
Right.
They've not been taught to talk about that. And when we can't talk about that stuff, we can be in a room with guys we love, but feel so lonely because they don't actually know what's going on inside of us. And sometimes, frankly, as men, we don't know what's going on inside of us because people don't teach us.
Right. How to
Hey,
articulate it.
how to articulate it, how to know what's happening in our body, how to talk about that in some deep ways. So there's all of these kind of forces swirling together that kind of push us men into this experience of often feeling alone,
Got
like we got the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? Oh my God, my mortgage is due and the economy's going crazy right now. I don't know if I'm going to have a job in 3 months, but man, I don't want to talk to my wife and kids about that because I don't want to freak them out.
Right.
If I'm scared, they're going to get scared. So I'm just going
Exactly.
to hold it all inside, right? It'll be tough. I'm figuring it out. It's all good. How's your day? Fine. Like that's how a lot of us men, are raised. And so these groups, that I'm passionate about, men's groups, become a space where we're allowed to connect to what we're really feeling
Yes.
and we're able to share that. And why it's so potent, particularly when it's other men, is guess what? Once we do go under the surface, it's like, oh my God, no, I totally get it. I'm doing the same thing. Like, oh
Right.
man, I feel you so much, right? Like there's that shared reality that is such a relief for men when they actually get to feel it of, oh, wait, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one struggling because I thought everybody I see on Instagram had the best relationship and best vacations and everything was going great. But a lot of times that's just the image, right? People don't post the more challenging things that are on inside. And so us men, we need to learn to cultivate that. And I think it's particularly important for fathers because we do, right? Often it is family, work, us
Right.
last. But the platitude exists for a reason where they say, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Right.
And we can be of even deeper service to our families when we're taking good care of ourselves, which also means getting social connection, getting help, getting support when we need it. So we don't have to hold all of the stress and tension in our bodies, which so many men do. And, I like to say it's like we kind of come into the world with a preloaded debit card full of energy and chi. And, when we're in our 20s, we just crank it late nights. We might party, we're working hard, start to hit our 30s and particularly our 40s and 50s. And it's like, oh, wait, that's not unlimited anymore.
Oh, damn.
I can't bounce back. I can't just push through.
I got to make a
And it
choice.
turns out, yeah. Um, and it just turns out that all of the tension we hold in our bodies, it takes the precious life force and energy we need as men, particularly as we age. And if we don't handle some of this sometimes more intense internal stuff, it shows up as sickness,
Mm,
depression, emotional issues, mental issues. And so getting connected into a group of men where we can deal with that stuff, why I love it so much is I see men come back alive.
right. Yeah, and I would say, I had a guest on a couple weeks back, and he said something very similar. That so he had a friend. They've been friends since high school, right? They went to the same college, everything, played the same sports together. They've been friends forever and a day. So, long story short, they're sitting down one day. He finds out that the friend's getting the divorce and has been dealing with this issue with his wife for like 10 years. And he
Yeah.
didn't like the friend never
Never
told
knew.
him about it. So we have been through all of this stuff together, and you didn't tell me the most serious thing happening in your life. You've been dealing with it alone, you know? And we both agreed that it's because we just don't know how to open up, you know, and have real conversations because having a real conversation sometimes makes us feel inadequate or it makes us feel weak, because I've got these issues and I'm supposed to be a man. It's supposed to be something as a man, I'm supposed to be able to take care of, you know, and nobody can do it alone.
That's right.
So,
That's exactly it. And it's that tendency to hold it all inside. Because for so many of us men, our success in our relationship, in our job, our ability to provide, that becomes our identity.
yeah.
So we're afraid to share, oh my God, that's not going well because I don't want to be a failure. I don't want people to see me as a failure or think less of me or think I'm weak or a sissy or, all the things that get put on us men growing up. But the good, news is when we drop underneath that, it actually makes us a lot stronger,
Okay.
right? When we can talk about these things, when we can get real and get some actual support from other men, right? This is a lesson I've had to learn so many times, right? Some challenge I have, and okay, no, I'll figure it out myself. And so
There we
doing
go.
research or experimenting or whatever. And then it turns out I asked someone, and it's like, oh, they told me how to do it in 2 minutes. And I
Right.
just wasted 3 months trying to figure it out on my own, right? It's just like tale as old as time of like, just ask for help. It's okay. It doesn't make you weaker. It actually helps you get more of what you want as a man.
Outstanding. So, moving on, you mentioned that every man should be in a men's group, right? So,
Yeah.
what about those men? What about those men who aren't in a men's group? What's happening with them?
Yeah. What I say, there's so many benefits to being in a group. But one I often talk about is us men, we care about being effective,
Yeah.
right? We want to be able to do the things we want to do, create the things we want to do,
Yeah.
have the success we want to have. And a good men's group will help you do that because it does two things primarily. When we get knocked off center,
Mhm.
right? When something doesn't go our way, a group is a place for us to help recover, where
Mm,
guys can be present with us, support us when we're down or depressed or scared or whatever that might be, and just provide us some connection,
okay.
right? Which, if nothing else, what it helps us do is regulate our nervous system, come back to our center, and get back to it, right?
Really?
Like it's kind of that simple.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing that a lot of guys don't have. And in the absence of that, when something knocks them off their center, if they have a challenge or something, what a lot of guys default to is, well, if I'm not feeling good inside, I need to use something on the outside to shift my internal state.
Mm,
Alcohol, weed, porn, sex,
yeah.
overworking, paychecks, buying stuff, you name it. That doesn't really get to the root often of it, which what we really need is just presence and love and co regulation.
Right.
Hey, man, it's okay. You messed up. I'm here with you. I messed up too. Like, right? I messed up so many times in my life.
Right.
Guys, take a deep breath. They're like, oh my God, this is okay. Then the other thing a group will do, right? So some guys are like, well, is it just about being vulnerable and feelings and crying? Sometimes, but not all the time.
Right.
The other thing a good group will do, though, is it helps keep you on track, helps hold you accountable
Right.
to move towards the things you say are most important in your life. The kind of man you want to be, the kind of work you want to create in the world, the way you want to be in a relationship. A men's group will give you honest feedback
Right.
about how you're being experienced and showing up in your life.
Okay.
And it doesn't come from a place of shame of, hey man, you said you do, and you didn't, right? No, it comes from a place of, I care about you. I love you. You've told me what you want in the world, and yet this is happening.
Right.
And I feel a mismatch. And I love you so much. I'm calling you forward around this,
Yeah.
right? I call it the spinach in the teeth moment, right? It's like you're walking around all day and someone finally stops you and you're like, man,
You have
you
to.
know, you got a big piece of spinach in your teeth right
Right.
there. And first it's like, oh man, really? I do. But then the second thing is, thank you for telling me because I've been walking around all day and no one else bothered to tell me and I look like an idiot. Now I have more trust, right? Now I have more trust for you because you confronted me with care, right? Terry Real calls this carefrontation.
Right.
And it's one of the things I see so many men longing for and not actually realizing how much they're missing and wanting that. People who are tracking them,
Mhm.
how they're showing up in life and what they're creating, and give them honest feedback about how that's going. Of, hey man, you said you wanted to do this, and yet you're doing the same fight with your wife again.
Right.
Like you keep blaming her for it, but what's going on your side? And then a man has to look at himself and really own his part. Um, and when men start to feel that kind of care, wow, these guys care about me so much, they're not going to let me get away with my shit that I always try to
Right.
pull, right? They're going to go through that. They're going to look through that deeper.
Yeah. They're holding
Man,
you
it is
accountable.
such an incredible experience for men when they start to feel that. If I got guys on my team, they actually care, right? They're on my team tracking me. So I can get more done. So the guys that don't have a group, right? It's like they're running on fumes, is what I see.
Okay.
And they don't even know it till they get plugged into a group and a support network. And then it's like, whoa, there's so much more
Right.
possible here, so much more gas in the tank. I didn't even realize I was just running on fumes for 2 decades there. But now with a group like this, I can try more. I can experiment more. I can take more bold risks in my life. And if they don't work out, it's okay because I got a safe place to land.
Right. Outstanding. So I was sitting there, and again, I was looking through some of the work that you were doing. So my next question would be, then for the guy who looks like he's okay from the outside, you know,
Yeah.
what's the difference between the guy who looks okay and the guy who's actually okay?
Yeah, the guy who's actually okay can tell you very quickly when he's not okay.
Okay.
Right? This is the paradox, right? He's like, "Hey man, I'm not doing well today. I'm struggling. I'm having a really hard time in my marriage or something's going on with my kid or yeah, I got some feedback at work and it's killing me."
Yeah.
Paradoxically, the fact that he can talk about it means he has more space around it. Right? So
Oh,
I see this emotionally all the time with guys, right? Where it turns out the man who's afraid to grieve or be angry or feel his shame or his fear, he's living in fear.
right.
But the man who's like, hey, man, I am just gutted. I'm a wreck today. I'm so sad or I'm so scared. And he's just present in that. He's not afraid of it.
Right.
And turns out um, that's a much easier place to be because what we learn is to work with this not okay stuff so much faster. Where there's guys I work with, I kid you not, in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who we do some deep shadow work or emotional work.
Right.
and they feel something in their nervous system that they have been carrying day in and day out for decades, which means for decades, a part of their awareness has been around this horrible thing that happened or some kind of grief or some kind of fear.
Mhm.
And guess what? Every time we're carrying something like that, part of us in any given moment is tracking that thing, which means we're less present in our life.
Right.
We're less present in our relationships. We're not fully here. So the men who are okay in a sense, they can talk about this stuff. They can metabolize it. They can be with it in very quick, often efficient ways, which let them get back to, okay, and now what do I want to do with my full presence and attention and
Yeah.
life force rather than having it trapped as often it is for us guys, is all this kind of tension in our physical body, in our heart, that we try so hard to numb out to or not feel or not avoid.
Oh,
For
yeah.
some guys, we just try to get laid so we can feel that momentary release of tension, which then puts all kind of pressure on our sex life and our relationship. So, these two guys can often look very similar from the outside, but the man who can step into this space,
Mhm.
with other men, being more emotional,
Right.
he's just going to be healthier. He's going to be happier. He's going to have more access to joy, partly because he has more access to his fear, his grief, his anger, all of that. Right. One of my first men's coach, he gave me this metaphor that's pretty popular in the work. Right. When it comes to emotions and feeling, there's just one pipe. There's just one pipe.
Yes.
So if we clamp down, oh, I can't feel that. Can't feel that fear. Can't feel that grief. Guess what? You're also clamping down on the good
I
stuff,
was just about to say everything.
joy, love, peace. All of that gets constricted too. And so, no wonder why this day and age, so many men are walking around flat, depressed. I don't feel alive. Well, they're not feeling some of the bad stuff, but they're not feeling the good stuff. And, that's the real main mechanism behind so many current or modern SSRIs, antidepressants,
Right.
is they just flatten your experience, right? So the range of what you can feel gets narrower. So you can't dip as low. But guess what? You don't get to feel as high
I was
either.
just about to say.
And and there's a time and place for those kind of pharmaceuticals. I'm not anti them, but long term, the more we can feel,
Mhm.
including what we would kind of call the dark notes on the scale, the more we get to feel the light notes on the scale.
Okay. So explain to me what the man box is.
Yeah, well, this we've started talking about this a little bit, but the man box, right, kind of popularized by this guy Tony Porter, and you can literally think of it as a box. And as long as you check certain attributes,
Yeah.
you fit in the box. If you don't fit in the box. So to be a man means you got to be these things.
Okay.
The biggest one for so many men is to be a man means you're invulnerable, right? You don't share weakness, you don't cry, you don't get scared. You're tough, you pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and no matter what you do, you figure it out. Man box also often means, yeah, you figure it out alone. Alone is better than asking for help, right? Tough is better than weak. Invulnerable is better than vulnerable. Um, Winning is the most important thing you can do. You can start to, right, just feel the culture of this. Even for a lot of men, other men are competition. They're not your allies. That's a huge part of the man box. Um, a big one I see impact men way more than people realize is if sex is available to you, you should take it. And if you don't, you're less of a man,
Ah.
right? That's a huge pressure on a lot of guys that,
Whoa.
oh, yeah, she wants me, so I should, did it. It's like, no, I actually don't want to be sexual with her. That's
Right.
first in that man's box. Um, so it's this narrow way of being we try to conform to consider ourselves a man. And, there's some of these attributes that are the same in all cultures, some change in different cultures, but there's a lot you can start to feel of, oh, yeah, we get programmed with this stuff for a long time. Mind, another one is mind over matter, right?
Yeah.
All the toughness culture of, oh, just keep pushing, just keep pushing. We get this stuff from such a young age. Stop crying. You're fine.
Yeah. I was,
right? What,
yeah,
right?
boys don't cry. Boys,
Boys don't cry.
yeah,
That's the man box. You know what that teaches a boy? What you're feeling inside?
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Override it with your head.
Yeah,
That has massive consequences for men downstream in life when suddenly they're working 80, right? So think about our culture now. We celebrate men who work 80 hours a week and sleep under their desk.
yeah.
What do you think that comes at the cost of? Their health,
Yeah.
their body, their relationships.
So what's something that as men, we've all been taught, growing up, but it's currently destroying all of our relationships.
Yeah. Well, I think we just nailed it. Don't feel.
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Right?
Fair
That
enough.
feeling is weakness.
Right.
Because we bury all this stuff down inside and we suffer. It's just it, right? We suffer as men. I mean, the suicide stats are bleak.
Yeah.
It's 3 out of 4 suicides are men. Why? For all the reasons we're talking about. When there's so much pain inside and we don't know what to do with it, for some men, the calculation they make is, well, then I'm out of here.
Right.
I can't handle it. Right. And I don't have the connection or support around me. And that is a poison in men, right? That, hey, whatever you're feeling inside, it's wrong. And you shouldn't be weak and you shouldn't be feeling that way. You shouldn't feel shame, all that stuff. It destroys us from the inside out. And then it shows up in our relationships too, right? This is one, again, so many of us men don't have enough connection and community in our life, don't have a place where we can be vulnerable or talk about what's going on inside.
Yeah.
But what's one of the one places men feel like they can do that? Their intimate relationship. And so if we have nowhere to go
Mm,
other than our intimate relationship, guess what that does? That puts a lot of pressure on our intimacy. Now, this person is our lover, our co parent, our occasional therapist,
right.
our best friend. We ask a lot from our primary partnerships
Right.
these days. And that gets a lot of men into trouble,
Right.
right?
Oh,
In that they get into relationships that aren't healthy for them or they stay in them too long because the calculation is, well, this is better than being alone. And
right.
if I don't have this, I'm going to be alone. So I'll get into, I'll take what I can get versus what I see when guys get into healthy connection with other men of, wow, I got to be honest, like my relationship is dysfunctional. It's causing me so much pain and I'm not okay with that anymore.
Right.
And then change starts to happen.
Yeah, but okay, so what I found though is that men, we sometimes we find a partner, that says, "Hey, you know what? Whatever you're going through, I'm here for you." But
Yeah.
that's only true to a certain extent. So you're not you're li- they your partner wants you to pour your heart out and everything and have these conversations, but at the very same time, they don't want you to do it too much. You
Yeah.
know,
This is the
I want to make
such a painful thing
yeah, I need a
for
guy
guys.
that's, you know, who's very manly, who's very this, but he also, expresses his emotions. He does this, he does that. I mean, the
Yep.
demand on men, left or right is always extreme. You know, like a man, let's say we'll use a man who raises, a single dad. We'll say a single dad who raises two kids all by himself, will never
Yeah.
get the same respect that of his female counterpart did. Or his kids will judge him differently than had it been a mom who did it on her own.
Mhm.
How do we, how do we get away from these things? Because, you can't tell me, hey, open up to me,
Yep.
but then tell me, well, just a little bit, you know?
Yeah. 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 It's a real pain point and it's a trap or, right. I actually see this really does play out in relationships, right? So, I mostly work with men who are in heterosexual relationships. So I'll speak towards that. But the woman's like, hey, I don't feel you. I don't feel connected to you. I want to feel your heart. I want you to be vulnerable. What's going on inside? Okay, okay. He's got all this programming, all these years.
Right.
He starts to bring it forward. She's like, ugh, I don't like that, right? That's too much for me. Like, you're freaking me out. That feels less manly. And he's like, double hurt because he brought the vulnerable thing forward. And then she was like, that's too much. Right.
Yeah.
So, what you're speaking towards is one of what I kind of call the new currencies for us men to develop is fluidity.
Okay.
So, it is the capacity to be, yeah, able to deeply step into our masculine, but also be able to deeply step into our feminine, right? And these aren't related just to biology. These are just energies, right?
Right.
These are different ways of being in the world that everybody has access to. And it is changing, right? Another stat I saw, it was something like, I think it was in like 1982, 3%, only 3% of fathers had ever changed a diaper.
Oh,
Not that long ago.
right. That's crazy.
By the end of the 90s, that's up to like 60, 70%, right? So there's a change in how involved fathers are,
Okay.
right? In the child rearing process. As an example, this is changing. But so here's where I'm going to tie it all together with why I say men's groups are so important. I've actually experienced this in my life. So if our intimate partner, if our woman in this case, is the only person we feel comfortable being vulnerable with,
Right.
sharing our feels with, sharing our heart with, what that often is felt like on her side is, oh my God, now I'm responsible for your well being. Now I'm your mom. I got to make you feel better,
Right.
right? All we have to do, literally, only change that makes that feel totally differently is if I got a pack of 6 to 12 brothers I'm in deep community with,
Yeah.
who I'm talking about this stuff with, and I come to my woman and I'm like, man, I'm really scared. I'm going to lose my job. Terrified. My guys are helping me figure out an action plan and what to do with that. I just wanted you to know that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God. Okay, great. You're being held by these men who trust you and love you. So I'm not the only one holding you.
Right.
Paradoxically, what that does is it often makes her feel more free to start loving on you then.
Okay.
It's like the funniest thing because she's like, there's other guys holding that with you. You're not alone in that. We're not alone in that.
Right.
And so I've seen this before, right? There was a time in my life where I transitioned careers, was not going well, was bleeding money, racking up debt. Before my wife and I wanted to have kids, or before we had kids, and
Right.
we wanted to have kids, and it was going in the wrong direction in a lot of ways. And my tendency tends to be I get stressed, I withdraw, I get quiet, I don't really
Me too.
talk. She starts to feel less connected, get scared. We have this deep talk. She's like, "What's going on? Like, I'm scared. I'm terrified. Like, or what is happening with you?" And I had been working with my men, right? I had been in group, so I had already started to process some of this. And I just looked her in the eye, took a deep breath, and I was like, I'm just at a place right now where it feels like I'm losing
Right.
everywhere. And it really hurts. And I want to be winning. And my guys are helping me figure out a plan for how to get back on track.
Mm. Mm.
It's literally all I said. She takes a deep breath. Her whole body relaxes. She knows where I'm at now, what I'm experiencing, and she doesn't have to fix it for me.
Right.
She can feel I'm working on a plan and I get to involve her in it, but it completely changes the energy of the nervous system. And, I'll shut up here in a minute, but my last thing around this is I have this, one of my favorite metaphors to use is, probably when you were growing up, I know when I was growing up, um, they had the old school Christmas lights,
Yeah.
right? So you put up Christmas lights. If one bulb was out, whole string wouldn't work, right? You put up your lights, turn it on. Oh my God, the one bulb up there
Yeah.
that's dead. Now the whole string's dead. That's a single series circuit. That's how men in isolation end up living their life. I've got one point of connection, and that's it. That's as big as my system is.
Right.
So if that point of connection is stressed or not going well, guess what? My whole system is not going well. Parallel circuit, newer lights, right? One bulb goes out, doesn't matter. Whole string still, there's different paths of connection.
Right.
Man being in a men's group, expanding the type of connection he has in his world. Okay, I got my primary connection here, but then I got all of these other connections around me. So if this one isn't going well, it's okay.
Right.
Because that one is 1 out of 12, right? Percentage wise, it's a smaller part of my system. I got places to go. Oh my God, I'm in a huge fight with my wife right now. Rather than having to numb out with that and be alone and, maybe drink it or whatever a man might do, I go to my group and those guys love me up. They tell me, hey, man, I know you guys are going to figure this out. You might want to do this. See how hard you're trying. I get connected. I
Right.
feel, oh my God, yeah, I got love in my life. I got connection in my life. Makes it easier to go deal with my relationship. So the more connected we get, the more, here's the key, the more resilient we get as men.
Okay. So why do you think though, these guys in these men's groups, why is it so hard for us to open up even to other men? Because genuinely, we know that other men are going through the same thing, Jason. So
Yeah.
why are we having such a difficult time just opening up and telling somebody else who, again, we know is likely in the same boat as us? Why are we
Yeah.
trying so hard to even open up to other men?
Yeah, it's that man box culture, right?
Okay.
And the very real truth and reality that for a lot of men, sometimes the most pain they experience is actually at the hands of other men, right?
Oh,
Particularly in that kind of early childhood, bullying, being made fun of, being ostracized. If we're a little different or we share, we cry or something.
right.
A lot of guys have that and they internalize that then is, oh my God, I can't give anyone any ammo here. So I'm going to keep it all locked down, right? I don't want to get shamed or made fun of by other guys. So we're fighting against that,
Okay.
which is a big part of the man buck culture. And then the other part is just lack of training. That's it.
Okay.
Guys just aren't trained. We're not actually taught how to do this. And the great thing about a men's group is you're given the structure, the tools, and the agreements that make it easier to step into that space, right? So we have agreements around confidentiality and safety and owning our experience and these different things that actually create the conditions to make it much easier to talk about what's inside and know that we're not going to get ostracized because of that. And then the actual structures of the group, they really facilitate that because here's
Right.
the quickest pathway I've seen for guys to learn that very thing you're saying is when they experience another man doing it.
Mhm.
That's right. Oh man, I wasn't going to talk about that, but then so and so, I saw he opened up about his marriage, and I thought, man, that was brave. Maybe I can do that too. And so now I'm talking about that too because he opened the space for me. It made me realize it was okay. This is what's so potent about a group is how fast we see that transmission happen of, oh, other guys actually show me that there's a different way
Right.
and make it okay. So many men I work with, they're just waiting for permission and
Yeah.
to know it's safe
It's
to
kind of like
talk about their inner world.
being in class. You know,
Yeah.
you need one person to raise their hand to ask questions because nobody else in the class wants to be the person that raised their hand. Like, oh no, I'm gonna feel stupid. I don't want to ask because everybody
Yeah.
else probably knows. And 90% of the time, nobody else knows either. They just need somebody else to answer.
Totally. And then here's where it gets super powerful is this experience I see every time I lead a group starts to happen where another man brings something forward vulnerably, shares
Right.
about something real going on in his life,
Yeah.
right? And in witnessing that, we're often like, wow, man, thank you for bringing that forward. That was like so courageous. Like, you're incredible, right? It actually, that's the experience men tend to have in this.
Right.
And then uh, it's the matrix moment, I kind of call it, where like guys are like, what? Where I'm like, and you realize that every time you share like that,
Yeah.
that's how other men experience your share. And they're like, what? No, no, my feelings are a burden. My grief is too much for guys. I don't want to. No, 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 no. It actually opens us up and inspires each other. So, a type of leadership that starts to happen in these groups is go first because your willingness to go first
Yes.
will create the space that often allows another man to
No.
go. So you're actually serving him. You're taking care of your brother. You're inspiring him. So every time you come forward, you make it easier for another man to come forward. And that completely changes how guys start to relate here. Of wait, it's not me being selfish. No, obviously you get your needs met, but you're actually inspiring other guys who you don't know. Your willingness to talk about that hard thing may literally save his life.
Right.
This has happened before. I didn't think I could ever talk about that. And I was da da da. But man, when you talked about that, that gave me the courage that, when I was young, my dad, da da da. And suddenly this thing he's been holding his whole life comes out and he's not holding it alone inside anymore.
Right. Yeah, I can tell you that once you finally get something off your chest, you know, like it is a tremendous weight. Like you can just breathe, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ah, I'm good." There have been a few times, and again, I'm still a work in progress, learning to express how I feel about things, but not be angry. Yeah,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, there'll be something I'll be genuinely passionate about, and I'm trying to express that, but it comes out as me being mad. So learning all these things now, is like, where was this years ago?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. No, totally. It wasn't around.
Yeah.
That's part of what the challenge has been for so many men is the culture didn't really give us permission or teach us how to do these things. And thankfully it's starting to change.
Yeah.
And honestly, it couldn't change faster because men have been in so much pain and so lonely and so disconnected and oftentimes so depressed or so addicted. And the pathway out is these kinds of connections that we're talking about. And like you said, I mean, it's a beautiful phrase, right? Get something off your chest when we get connected in these ways, it's not like a theoretical mental thing. It's like, oh my God, I can actually breathe more deeply. There's more
Yeah.
space in my body. Ah,
Right. Which is crazy,
it's,
man. Because even watching you do that, I'm like, I know that feeling. I know that
yeah,
feeling
right.
of just something finally being lifted off me where, you know what, I can just finally just relax, you know, and I want that very same feeling for more men. And again,
Boom.
like I said, I am still a work in progress, and I've experienced that a few times. So I would like to see the man who has never experienced having a little bit of, something pulled off of him, you know, experience the
Yeah,
same feeling. That same, like, hey, there are people in my corner, this I'm glad I talked about this because I was in a really bad place before and now I feel so much better about the situation, you know. And wow, I'm ready to go about the rest of my day. I'm gonna have a better
that's
week.
right. Exactly.
I'm gonna have a better week because of this. You know,
Yeah.
so doing doing this kind of stuff, doing this work. How do you see it change men? You know, is it a fast turnaround? Is it something that you know, or is it specific for each man? You know,
Sure. Yeah. It tends to be faster than guys realize. I
okay,
mean, I'm talking, within a couple weeks or months, you can be feeling very different in your body depending on how deep of a connection you build to guys. In that,
okay,
I mean, the things I see the most are much less rumination in men. So, men not getting stuck in these anxious thought loops or overthinking, but actually becoming more present. I see guys come more alive, like I said, as they get support and are able to process things. Literally, eyes get brighter, faces relax, voice deepens,
okay.
breath gets bigger. There's more life force in their system. And in a big way, it makes men more available for their lives,
Mhm,
more available to actually be present in the things they want to be present in,
mhm,
which is often, I really want to be present with my kids. I don't want to be thinking about work or stressing all the time or sucked into my phone. I want to be here with my kids. And so, what I see men's groups do is it actually allows men to be more present in their relationships and they get better and more connected and deeper. And it often blows guys away. They're like, what? I was spending time with men in this way, making my relationship to my son or my daughter or my wife better. But it does
right,
because we get more centered, we get more grounded in ourselves, we get more connected. When we're more connected to ourselves, guess what? Much easier to feel more connected to other people. So these kinds of changes can be very meaningful. And yeah, they don't happen necessarily overnight, but it's also the fun part of a group is it starts to anchor in. It doesn't have to happen overnight,
mhm,
right? We're on this growth path together and we're all a work in progress. Everybody's working on something. And sometimes just being in that container is just like, oh, I thought I was the only one that was messed up. No, turns out we all got something and we can laugh about it. And it starts to actually be a source of energy of, yeah, these are the things I'm working on in my life. What are you working on in your life? And it becomes just more of a lifestyle
Right.
that creates so much more ease for men. Another metaphor I often use for a good group is having these kinds of male connections in our lives. They're like shock absorbers for life.
Mhm.
So the terrain, life, it's still going to keep coming at you with bumpy stuff. Stress is going to hit you,
Right.
right? But suddenly you've got a system to help you absorb the shock, to
Okay.
deal with it, to not break down, to not get tanked by it. So you can keep moving forward in your life. And so that can happen in honestly just a couple weeks. Once guys get connected in the right container, they're like, whoa, this is amazing.
Shit, I love that. And like I said, the entire purpose of this for me is really to get the word out to other guys. Hey, there are resources out there for us. There are resources
Yeah.
out there for you. Hey, I've had this person on my show. I think they would be a really good fit for you and what you're dealing with. You know. Um. So tell me a hard truth. Okay, hard truth about men today that most people aren't even really ready to hear.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak to men around this one, and it's um, straight to the men who are maybe still a little hooked on the now I'm gonna figure it all out. And I do work with these guys, right? Where
Mhm.
it's not just I don't have any connection. It's actually a point of pride that I don't need anybody.
Right.
I don't need anybody. I figure it out, right? That's how I live my life. The hard truth for a lot of men is I don't care how tough you think you are, how good a shape you're in, how well you take care of yourself, how resilient you are. There will be a moment in every man's life where his body will fail him.
Mm.
That could be old age, that could be sickness, that could be accident. And in that moment, you are going to fall back to who do I have around me, right? What connection, community do I have?
Right.
And for a lot of guys, they wait until the emergency to start building that. And it makes it 10 times harder. And one of the things you can start to do right now
Okay.
is building those relationships and investing in other people. So when you have that challenge, that hard time, you got people to call on who are going to show up and who are going to support you when you cannot support yourself.
Mm. Yeah, see, and again, for me, I'm thinking about who can I call, right now? If I had a serious emergency, who can I call?
Yeah.
And not even say a serious emergency. Let's just say I'm, dealing with some personal issues and I just need to talk. And I can tell you right now,
Yeah.
I've got like two people, and one of them is my wife.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. There you go. So, like dad said, and it's not that there's anything wrong with those two people, but what happens if those two people aren't available to you?
right?
Right? You can see how challenging it can get pretty fast. And so we want to have, and when I say this, it's not like we have to go out and have, 100 best male friends, right? A good group can be 6 guys,
Mhm.
completely change our life, having that kind of connection and availability. Even just going deeper with a couple of men in our lives as is, even if it's not a formal group, but just, yeah, I've always kind of had this connection with, Joe at work, but we've just never quite take the time. Say,
Right.
hey, man, I want to go out to lunch and I want to get to know you. What's going on in your life? Man, that can start to change relationships so fast. When guys come into some of my programs, I hear this all the time. It's like, man, I saw my buddy last night and we've known each other for 20 years and we went deeper in one night than we've gone 20 years.
Wow.
It's like the friendships I already have got so much better learning to connect in these ways.
Okay. So I'll leave. We'll close with this. Let me think. Well, first off, before I ask you the last question, anything you want to share, with the group, with the community, something near and dear to your heart that, hey, you want to invite people to?
Yeah, I would say just you don't have to do it alone.
Okay.
Trust me. Getting support and connection, asking for help, getting community. It it's not that it always makes life easier. Like I said, we're going to get hit. Life comes at us on unpredictable things, but it does make it a lot better,
Okay.
right? We can navigate the bumps much, much easier. So don't wait. You know, if you're a guy listening and you're like, yeah, man, this feels a little too close to home, it's time. You can really get yourself resourced in a way that you might be shocked by,
Yeah.
right? It's like, whoa, I didn't even know how much I was missing out on until I got some of this connection.
Right.
So I would say, you know, wherever that leads you, if you need help, reach out to me. I'm sure you got some resources, but like be proactive. Don't wait for the emergency.
Mm. Okay. So, final question for the man who just refuses to change, who pays the price for that?
Yeah, oftentimes the people around him,
Okay.
right? The people that never really got to know him in his heart,
Mm.
right? You know, one of the guys I work with that I lead some of my groups with, you know, he says it pretty blunt. He's like, "Man, when we pass, when we go, you don't get to take any of it with you.
Right.
All that's left is the love." So
Yeah.
focus on the relationships now, you know, and every time they do one of those end of life kind of terminally ill people who are like, "Oh my god, it's coming."
Mm.
It's never, "I wish I had worked more. I wish I had, you know, had a six pack ab." Like it's not that stuff. It's, "Man, I wish I had spent more time with the people that love me and that I love."
Right.
And that uh, you'll feel that at the end. You know, a huge part of the work I do with men, large part of men's work in general, is this idea of how do I have to live now so that in my last breath I feel relaxed,
Woo.
not contracted.
Ouch. Okay, that's beautiful. I'm gonna leave it right there because there's no topping that, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you. We are definitely have to stay in touch. I'm gonna reach out to you so I can get some of your info, just so we can
Great.
I can share it, you know, because I want as many resources out there as we can get. So
Fantastic.
outstanding, sir. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and for creating this space for men.
Outstanding. Thank you for being a part of it. Have a good one.